Welcome. Now, in this module, we'll take a look at security hardening for outsourced IT assets or for outsourced projects. Now, what happens is that the entire IT infrastructure is not managed and controlled entirely by the organization sometimes. And there are some business applications like a call center, which is outsourced to a vendor. And we're going to take a look at three main topics in this module. IT outsourcing, what type of IT assets are outsourced, a mechanism to harden outsourced IT assets, and other important considerations. So IT outsourcing examples, like I mentioned, a call center, hosted servers with a third party, software development activity would be outsourced because the software development company has to make it, workstation, help desk functions, and sometimes the O&M, operations and maintenance for entire activity is outsourced. Many times the help desk activity, user support activity, if something happens to a workstation, the browser is not working, you're not able to launch an application, you call the help desk and that function is outsourced to a vendor. And sometimes it's the calling facility, and sometimes those people are available on site at the customer premises, at the organization premises to help you. And network services, for example, managing the network connectivity, the network monitoring, and the network fault recovery, for example, or the maintenance, and any other arrangement from IT perspective, which is outsourced to a third party. Now, the mechanism when this happens, and this happens in large organizations, this happens a lot, because you have to engage partners, and then you have to ensure that the partners actually implement the security. So the mechanism is that, first of all, you should have your own information security policy. Obviously, it should not be very detailed, and you should be able to share this with your third-party contractor or third-party vendor. And then in the vendor contract, you should have a right to audit clause, and you should clearly communicate to the third party or the contractor that we will have a right to audit whenever we want through our agent or directly by our organization to come and look on site, to interview your people, and to audit the security implementation and the security flow of what you're doing. And then you have to set up the security aspect as a project, because usually what you find is that you may be taking your security very seriously, and you have it all organized, and you have a process and a mechanism, and you have security activities, but your vendor is not motivated for security and is not aware of what your requirement is. So you have to launch a project, because definitely there's a very high likelihood that there will be several security gaps that would be present, and you would gradually have to bring up the security posture of your contractor or your vendor. You would do an audit, and then you would ask them, you would give them a checklist of controls to implement, to further improve the posture. And this is an ongoing activity, so you have to launch a project for this. And then do periodic reviews, do a quarterly audit, do spot checks, and then have penalties for non-compliance as well in the contract. And the contractor should be firmly aware that if they do not take security seriously, and if they do not, in fact, comply to your own security policy, then there would be penalties and there would be consequences, which could even lead to expulsion or cancellation of the contract. Now, important considerations. Enter security requirements into the RFP. Before engaging the third-party contractor, right in the beginning of the process, you need to make the contractor aware about the importance of security, so that it enters into their awareness, and they are able to handle this. And they are able to help you in your organization with this. So enter the security requirements into the RFP, make it a part of the vendor evaluation, give some good weightage to the security capability of the organization, and evaluate, ask questions, ask for a presentation, ask for certifications, and proceed with contract, including the information security clause. Now, in the RFP process, when you select the final vendor, then bind them contractually with the right to audit clause, and you should also ask them in the contract, in a clause specifically, that they will be subject to the same information security policy that is for your organization, and that for the contractor it's the same policy. They have to comply to all the clauses of the policy. And then there's awareness training as well. So you have to make their people aware about the security requirements, because even the vendor is engaging new people. So I mentioned about the help desk, outsourced help desk functionality. Sometimes they engage new people, and old people will go on leave, and new people replacements will come in. So make sure that people who are engaged by the third party, that whenever they come on site or whenever they are engaged in your project for the first time, they have to pass and enter and complete an awareness training. And security evaluations include outsourced scope in periodic internal audit. So you're doing the internal audit for your own organization, but you've also got to do it for the outsourced projects. In the internal audit scope, make the outsourced projects a part of that. Ask for third-party security review. So sometimes when software is developed for an organization or website is developed by a third party for an organization, you ask them to do a third-party penetration test and vulnerability assessment at their own cost in the RFP. And then you look at the report and make sure that they have met that security level. And vulnerability assessment and penetration test, if applicable, ask for a third-party security review also, which doesn't include a pen test. I'll ask for a pen test as well. And you can also do spot security checks, which is a right to audit clause. So managing a vendor or a contractor or a third party, irrespective if they're on your site or they are not on your site or they are accessing even remotely, it's very important to plan this out very carefully because they become an extension of your IT architecture, your IT capability. And you could be very, very focused on your own security mechanisms and policy and program and could very easily miss what the contractor is doing. And usually what we've seen is that the contractors are not motivated for security. So you have to take them along as a partner, educate them, take them along, be a bit patient, but then have stringent controls, checks, and audit clauses and penalty clauses, and then you bring them up gradually. But the important thing is to engage them very, very early on in the engagement in the RFP, then in the vendor evaluation, in the contract, then in the audits, and then through compliance, ongoing compliance, periodic compliance. So that's all that we have for this module. Thank you.